pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone to the April meeting of the Arundecoit Zoning Board of Appeals. Before we get underway, I want to draw your attention to the fire exits. In the event of a fire or other emergency, please move in a calm and orderly fashion through the door to your left, and then use either the stairs at the north or the south entrance to the building, but not the elevator. The meeting minutes are being taken by our Secretary, Michelle, for the purpose of a record and minutes, not as a verbatim transcript. So each time you come to the podium, it would be appreciated if you would identify yourself and speak clearly into the microphone. The purpose of the minutes is, as I said, is not to be a verbatim record, but only to indicate the sum and substance of the proceedings, and it helps if you identify yourself. The meeting is being recorded by our ICAT department, broadcast on Spectrum Channel 1303, and I believe it's also, I've been told, available to watch on Facebook and maybe some other social media platforms. For those of you who are unfamiliar with our procedure, we follow the items in the order that they appear on the agenda. Extra copies of the agenda are available near the door. The procedure that we followed is that after the case has been called, the applicant or their representative should come to the podium, identify themselves, state their address, then pause, raise their right hand to be sworn, and then present their case. During the presentation of the applicant's case, the members of the board have an opportunity to ask questions or engage in discussion with the applicant. Once that process is completed, the case will then be opened for public input. Anyone wishing to speak to the board regarding any application should come to the podium, identify yourself, your address, and direct any and all comments to the board, not to the applicant. We have three categories of public input that we've identified. The first is those who wish to speak in favor of the application. Then the next group is those that wish to speak in opposition to the application. The third group are those who are neither in favor or opposed to the application, but want to address some issue that pertains to the application, such as fences, chickens, whatever it may be. Once all three of those categories have been heard from, then the applicant or their representative will be given the opportunity to respond. After that, the case will be closed and we'll proceed to the next item on the agenda. Once we've completed all of the matters that are on the agenda, the board will take a brief recess, and after that, we'll return to deliberate each case in the order in which they appear on the agenda and for which the applicant is still present. So if the first case on the agenda, the applicant has left, we would start with the second case, and we would work through the cases in the order they appear on the agenda and for which applicants are still present. Then we would go back to the top of the agenda and take the cases for the applicants that have left. During this portion of the meeting, there is no further input allowed unless it is specifically requested by a member of the board, but you are welcome to stay and listen to the deliberations if you so choose. If you wish to leave but are interested in knowing the results, you can call the Planning and Zoning Board tomorrow morning after 9 a.m., or if you get home quick enough, you can catch it on 1303 or Facebook or wherever. So, if we can start by calling the first case on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item on the agenda is case number ZB 2025-04-01. Request by Ryan Zegarelli, acting as agent for Andrew Falaco, is seeking area variances for the construction of a plus or minus 1,228 square foot two-story addition with less than required setbacks on premises 183 and 189 Belmead Road in an R1 residential district.
Hi, my name is Ryan Zegarelli, acting as an agent to Andy Falaco, owner of 183 Belmead.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
So Mr. Flacco is seeking to build a two-story addition to his home on Belmead. It consists of a two-car garage with a small kitchen addition on the first floor and a master suite above it on the second floor. If you have the site plan there, essentially the existing two-car garage is a little bit set back behind the house. It's difficult to get a vehicle into. It's quite small and in disrepair, so we plan to demolish that before this project starts and build the addition to the east of the existing house. And what we would like to do in order to get a properly sized garage and a little bit of extra space in their kitchen is to reduce that side setback, which should be 7 feet according to the 70-foot dimension along the street, and reduce that to 5 feet. And that is the main request. When I first started looking at this, we understood that it was one lot. Michelle can tell you more, but it turns out that he owns both lots. It's kind of a lot and a half, both under his name, and we just assumed that was buildable area, but wanted to make sure, so we went through it with O'Neill Rodak, the surveyor, and the town, and we're working on a courtesy combination through the town to get that through. So then we only have to go for the one side setback variance.
And to the east, there's at least 10 feet of flat, I think it's driveway mostly, in the neighbor to the east, correct?
Correct, it's just flat side yard.
So the 2 feet difference is not going to result in any significant closer together than what the ordinance would talk about.
Correct. Actually, the neighbor to the east did the same exact thing. He built a car addition, or a garage addition towards Andy's house as well. So we're kind of mirroring what he already did.
Have they re-subdivided to combine the two parcels? Has that been done formally?
We're in the process. The homeowners signed the forms today.
So we're going to move forward with, it's chapter 210 of the town code where it recommends a parcel combination. But due to the fact that we were without an assessor, we researched finding an assessor, or if there could be a backup assessor while we were in the process of hiring an assessor, and nobody could do it. So we finally the town hired the assessor, so now we're gonna go down and talk to him tomorrow with regard to the paperwork and getting the parcel combination done.
Yeah, on the application, the original letter and everything was from December. That was our original goal, but there were just complications, which is why we're here now. But
Town staff was researching it in regards to how it was a little confusing because the survey map shows it being 70 feet wide, but it still maintains 2 tax IDs on it. We did find that it was one parcel at one point. How it got back to 2, we could not locate any records on that. So this is why we want to help them and get this combined into taken care of finally and for good for one lot, one tax ID.
If I recall right, under the highway law, when that parcel was abandoned, it was split in half and reverted back to the 2 adjoining property owners, so it should have automatically been resubbed into one lot. So it's sort of a non-issue.
Well, and I spoke with the land surveyor, O'Neill Rodak, and that's how they are reading it, as one lot, being the 70 feet wide versus the 50 on the 20.
Yep.
But they're still depicting 2 tax IDs on it. So we just want to clear it up, and get them situated with the 1 tax ID.
Makes sense.
yeah, even the survey map that says lot 214 in bold, and then to the right, lot 213, and it's kind of dashed in like it's something was going on, you know.
I just have one question. How many square feet is the existing house?
Ooh, roughly 1,300.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
The total square footage includes the garage, though, you're putting 1,228.
Yeah, I was just giving you the size of the new construction. It wouldn't go towards the square footage of the house.
No, I mean, but it says on here, you know, the second story will be a master suite. In total, a 1,228 square foot addition, including the garage.
Correct.
So is the addition 1,228 feet, or does it include the garage?
It includes the garage.
Okay. And the other garage is coming down, if I heard you.
Correct. Yep.
All right. We will open it up to public input. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about garages, side setbacks, or anything like that? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter. Thank you, Mr. Zigarelli.
Thank you.
Next case on the agenda is case number ZB 2025-04-02. Request by Kevin and Teresa O'Hare are seeking a special use permit to harbor 5 hens with coop pursuant to Town Code Section 23570 in an R2 residential district. I'm sorry, that was on 140 Seville Drive.
Hi, Terry O'Hare, 140 Seville Drive.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have applied for a special use permit to have a small backyard chicken coop. My original application had 3 to 5 hens, but I have since become aware of a New York State agricultural law that requires a minimum of 6 chickens to be purchased. So I'm still working on figuring out what or who I can give the 1 or 2 chickens. So I do think I need to amend it to 3 to 6 chickens.
So I think this is the second time we've heard mention of that statute. It's in the agriculture and markets law,
That's what I was told.
and it says that you can't buy under 6 chicks.
Correct.
All right, so when we've in the past imposed a 5 hen maximum, what we've essentially done is forced you to kick a chick out on the street, right?
Yes.
All right. So you'd like to have 6 so you can buy and not have to evict a chick?
Correct. Although my intention is still to try and find a home for 1.
Okay, but I'm thinking not just in your case, because we get applications for chickens and hens and ducks and other things regularly. So we weren't aware of that provision until an applicant not a month ago, 2 or 3 months ago, brought that to our attention.
Yeah, I was not aware of that either.
Okay. So from the application, it appears to me that you have perused what we've put in terms of conditions in the past,
Correct.
and you're comfortable your application intends to comply with all of our restrictions, correct?
Yes.
All right. Have you talked to your neighbors?
We have new neighbors that just moved in over the weekend, so I have not had an opportunity to speak to them yet.
Okay. Not that that would, preclude you having the permit, just curious.
Got it.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Do you know what all our requirements are?
I do, yes. Michelle provided those to me.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. You have to purchase 6. If you purchase 6 and donate 1 back to Ronins or wherever you're going to buy the chicks, would that work?
I asked that at Country Max, which is one of the local vendors of chicks, and that's exactly what I said. Could I pay for 6 and only take 5? and they said that would be against the law.
Any other questions? All right, is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about hens and coops and what our conditions are and how many you have to buy or anything like that? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing with respect to this matter. Move on to the next case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next case on the agenda was a tabled case from the previous month in March. It's case number ZB 2025-03-02. Request by Thomas Marciano is seeking an area variance to continue parking a commercial vehicle pursuant to Town Code subsection 235-104.1 on premises 307 Pert Avenue in an R2 residential district.
Hello, Thomas Marciano.
Yeah, first thing we'll do, hold on a minute. I'll make a motion that we take this case off the table and add it to the agenda tonight.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6 votes in favor, no opposed. 1 member of the board is absent. Now it's your turn.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
State my name again?
Yes.
Thomas Marciano,
All right. And your address?
307 Pert Avenue.
All right. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I bought a box truck. I do flooring for a living. I didn't realize when I bought it that Irondequoit had a code against certain size vehicles. I've been keeping it in my driveway. It fits in my driveway. Until I started getting a letter saying that I can't park it there. Yet, when I go to work, this is where, obviously where I live, this is where I go home. So it's been extremely difficult. I've been keeping it somewhere where I'm not supposed to. In the meantime, I don't really know what to do with it right now because I've been struggling trying to get to my vehicle. And on the same day I took it somewhere else, it got broken into and I got robbed for thousands of dollars of my tools. The same day the police came and told me I had to move it. So it's just been a battle to try and run my business.
But I've noticed that there's a van that's parked in the driveway that you also use in connection with your business?
I used to use it, it was too small.
So you're not using that at all,
No,
but you still have it?
I still own it, yes.
It's still licensed, correct, and
Still
roadworthy?
registered, still everything, it was just too small.
All right.
That's why I got the box truck. I couldn't
All right.
work out of a van any longer.
But the problem with the box truck is that it's too big for the neighborhood. I mean, if you lived in a different neighborhood where there were wider streets and bigger lots, maybe that would work. But in the neighborhood that you're in, that truck is way too big for that driveway and/or the street.
It does fit in the driveway, though.
Well, that depends on how you define fit. I mean, quite frankly, when I drove by a while ago and it was parked in the driveway, did it fit in the sense that it was between the edges of the driveway? Yeah. Did it block the view going down the street? It did. Did it look out of place? Sure did. And it looked like an eyesore, which is why the neighbors are all upset and came here in March to speak out against it. So, you know, you can have the truck if you need it for your business, but you just can't park it there. You're going to have to find another place where it can be parked and hopefully be secure for you. There are places like that where you can store vehicles, and you might be able to make an arrangement with somebody else for storing it, but that's not the place for it. And you can use the van to get back and forth from your house to wherever it is that you find.
Temporarily, I'm trying to sell it. So
Well, I mean, the problem is that truck does not fit in that neighborhood, okay?
I hear you.
So you've found a place during the last 30 days where you were able to keep it, maybe not as securely as you would like, but you found a place. And I'll tell you, driving by, I went by Saturday, I went by again yesterday, and it was such a difference without the truck there. Anyone else have any comments or questions of the applicant?
And a couple times when I went by, it was parked in the street when snow and stuff, and it's a very narrow street, unfortunately. And it makes it hard. I mean, even when I was going by, somebody was coming the other way, and I had to stop and wait until they went by and go around and hope nobody else was coming. It's a little, I understand, construction and what you have to do, but that is a little too big.
Yeah, the only reason it was in the street though was because I couldn't have it in my driveway.
Yeah,
That's
but,
the only-
and also, certain times of the year, you can't park in the street either for certain hours.
Yeah, but I didn't want it in the street at all, is what I was saying.
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand.
But as of the 16th, I can put all my vehicles in the street except that truck. Overnight, all day long.
Yeah, after the
Yeah.
winter.
My yellow van, the Transit, my car, right?
Well, that's up, to the town and everything too, but it's still gonna block a lot of people from getting
Oh,
around.
that's public parking. They're not commercial vehicles. I'm just stating.
I got you.
I hear you. Anyone else? Anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? Step right up.
Good evening. Mary Schmidt, 316 Pert. We were here all last month. The whole street was here, I think. I think it's clear we want the box truck gone. It's gone. It's much better over there without it. It would be nice that his attitude wasn't that as soon as the April 16th comes, he can put all his truck vehicles on the street, because he does jam the street up with all his vehicles. But that's the way it is, so we're glad the box truck is gone. Thank you for getting rid of that.
Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone who'd like to talk to us about box trucks, parking in driveways, parking in the street, anything like that? Seeing none, did you want to respond to her comments? Okay, then we will close the case with respect to this matter and move on to the next case on the agenda.
Next case is case number ZB 2025-03-04. Request by Ken Bracker, acting as agent for unknown convenience, is seeking consent of the Board of Appeals and area variances to operate a tobacco retail dealer and vapor products business less than 1,000 feet from the nearest point of the property line of a school, playground, or child care facility, and less than 700 feet from the nearest public entrance of one or more existing licensed tobacco retail dealer or vapor products dealer on premises 525 Titus Avenue, Sky Irondequoit LLC in the C Business District.
Hi, good evening. My name's Ken Bracker. Malik,
Malik Ahmed.
he is one of the employees of the owner. The owner unfortunately could not make it tonight. He is at one of his other stores in New York State that also sells cigarette products.
All right, I need you both to raise your right hand.
Okay.
I also need you to first to state your addresses for the record.
My name is Ken Bracker. Do you want my home address or my work address?
Whichever address you choose to use.
I'll use my work address. 311 Alexander Street, Suite 214, Rochester, New York, 14607.
Thank you. And sir?
Malik Ahmed.
And your address?
1505 First Street, North Syracuse.
Okay. Now, if you'd both raise your right hands, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. All right.
Great. Well, let me start off here with a little bit of the project history. I've been the owner's architect for about a year now, and the owner of the property has about They've told me they've got 23 million square feet of different retail spaces throughout the entire country. I obviously do not represent all of those locations. I do work for them in 4 plazas right now. So when projects like this come up and there's owners that have never been before boards, they ask me to step in here.
Okay, before you go much further, I have a question for you, since you are employed by the owner of the plaza, is that correct?
Yes.
Did they tell you that a very similar application to this was presented to us 3 years ago and denied?
I knew of that, but it wasn't how this came up was the fact that the owner of the plaza right now the owner of the plaza rents to the same owner of this proposed location in Norwich, New York. And when you own a lot of plazas, from what I can see as an architect hearing what developers do and landlords do, is if they have a tenant in an existing plaza that has a good business, causes no trouble, and they've been there for 3 years now in that plaza, they very often refer to them and say to them, guess what? We've got other plazas with vacancies. Would you consider locations?
All right, I'm not familiar with Norwich. Does Norwich have a statute like Arundecoit does?
I do not believe so. I am not here I am just giving you the project history.
Understood.
At one point, I will go through the 5 points of granting an area variance.
Okay.
I'm just giving you a little bit of history here. And so the owner came up here, looked at this location. They thought it would be a great location. And they also looked at some other locations up here in Western New York, and they decided to do these locations. And they start the process, and once, they're going into the process, they discovered that this is not a permitted use without an area variance because of the proximity to other items. So that's what got us here. We made application. In February, I met with some people from some of the various local governing organizations, and they gave me some feedback and some help. So going on here, I'm sorry, I get very nervous at these things.
That's all right.
I don't normally do presentations, and I don't know why I feel that way.
Relax.
Well, I will be fully relaxed in about an hour. When
Okay.
I'm driving home, and we'll be thinking, oh, I should have said this, I should not have said that, but I can't change life. But I decided I would make myself a little bit easier for tonight's meeting because I decided I'd go on the internet. And the internet has a primer on area variances in New York. So I said, great stuff to read. I've done these in the past in area variances, and not quite as controversial. I've never done it with smoking. I've done the ones where it's like, a fence, parking too close to the property line, all those other, which I'm sure you guys have seen, or people I should say have seen numerous times. And so I decided to get this, and then I also spent a little bit of time. Well, let's start off going through this, okay? Let's start going through the 5 points, okay? I'm going to the first, and obviously we're talking about an area variance here, not a use variance. There's no intent to sell marijuana or anything else like that at this store. This store will sell tobacco and vaping products.
Well, let me just point out to you that the town of Arundecoit passed an ordinance, I think about 3 years ago, welcoming marijuana sales into the town. So the fact that of whether your tenant is going to sell marijuana or not, that's not the issue in front of us. It's about, it's about the smoking.
I am only bringing that to your attention because when I met with people from various, I'll call them police department, fire department, whoever else was there that day when I think it was either a Tuesday or Thursday morning, the person inferred as if, it's next thing you know, you're going to want to sell marijuana. Their lease explicitly talks against that, and I would not pursue, obviously, and I would not pursue an area variance, and I just wanted to get this. I felt that needed to be said.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. I'm not, I'm sorry if this presentation is going to take probably as long as all the other previous presentations tonight, because I just blab on.
That's fine.
The first part is, of the 5 points, and I'll read these. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance. The plaza is going to effectively look exactly the same as it does right now. There's going to be no paving. There's going to be no new site lighting. There's going to be no new doors put into the plaza. The only difference to the plaza itself would be a sign. And obviously, the sign put on the building would be in compliance with your zoning code. So,
Well, would you agree with me that there's a lot more to the character of a neighborhood than the appearance?
I'm just reading this little section over there.
Well, I understand, but
Well, I think that might be addressed better in one of the. I will say that they are selling lawful products. I am not saying that there's anything here that would be detrimental to this. And they have something here that I guess I'll bring up now. They are going to enforce something, and I would want it to be part of the approval process here, that they will not allow anyone in the store that's under 21 years of age.
well, here's the problem that I have with the first factor. right?
Okay.
The change to the neighborhood character. The town board made a determination when they passed the ordinance that having too many smoke shops within a geographical radius is a negative impact on the character of the neighborhood. So we do not have, in my view, the authority to counteract and say to the town board, well, we disagree with you.
Well,
And they have determined that the reason for the 1,000-foot radius and the 750-foot radius is to prevent an oversaturation of smoke shops, because they have determined that that negatively impacts the character of the neighborhood. So you're asking us to ignore that and say it really doesn't change anything because the plaza will look the same. But that's not, the town board wasn't concerned about the appearances. They were concerned about what was being sold and the proximity of what was being sold. Yes, it's lawful, but the proximity of what was being sold in relation to locations that attract children, playgrounds, daycare centers, schools, and other
okay.
retailers that sell the same lawful product. So how do we get around that?
Well, let's talk about it. I want to get around.
That's what I want to hear.
I said, what does 1,000 feet mean? 1,000 feet means 22 seconds driving in your car. It means like 3 minutes of walking. So I was trying to get in my mind, because when I'm, as an architect, I'm familiar with building codes, and very often they'll just say 50 feet, 100 feet, 280 feet, whatever the number might be. And I'm like, wow, what was their rationale behind that? And I've always had a little bit of trouble in terms of what does 1,000 feet mean? Like when we look at, let's say, Joshua Park, the church behind it, there's the Kessler School for, can't remember what it's for. They're all on the backside of the plaza. And of course, you could say that, well, it's within that 1,000 feet. Well, if you go there and you think that is what they were thinking about when they said that, I don't really think they were. I don't really think when we come to, like it was brought up, 45 Cooper Road, 45, oh, it's a school. Well, is it? Because how many students go to 45 Cooper Road? Zero.
What about the daycare at the church at 644 Titus?
This is
What
how.
about Quickly's?
No, I would talk, I'm here to talk about all of them. I'm not
Okay.
gonna bring them on. I'm ready to talk about them.
Well, let's hear about
Okay.
it. Because those are the things,
I am old enough that
those are the things that are there, and those are the things that the town board was referencing when they passed the ordinance. Whether you think they really thought about 1,000 feet or not is
I'm
not
not-
something we can take into account. They passed the ordinance, they said 1,000 feet, they said as the
Yeah.
crow flies, not 1,000 feet the way you walk or drive it, and that's what you're asking us to overrule.
I am when you say it is, the extent of which it will negatively impact the area. That is what this section of the code is talking about. And I'm talking about item A right now. We'll go through all of them.
Yep.
Okay? And when it comes to, I'm old enough that I have children that went to daycare centers. And I also had children, obviously they continued on, they went to schools. And what did I discover? Oh, guess what? Your 4-year-old or 6-year-old in daycare couldn't just wander out and say, hey, why don't we go down to the shopping plaza today? How do they get there? You drop them off as a parent. You pick them up as a parent. It's not like, kids in daycare, hey, let's go investigate something today. They are confined in what they do by, I'm assuming it's regulations in the state or just good practice. So it's not like these kids are wandering through the plaza, I would believe. And once you get in, with parents where they take their kids, I have no idea.
Are you suggesting that the town board was unaware of the fact that parents drop off
I
kids
don't
to
know why.
daycare?
Oh, I'm sure they knew that, but is it, what I am saying here, my argument or my reason for this is saying, is this going to negatively impact anything? That is the basis of our discussion here, I should say, that it won't really, by granting this variance, there's two things that are going to happen, and I could be wrong on this. If tonight you grant us these variances that we're requesting, we still have to go before the town board. The town board, from what you're saying here, was the factor in developing all these laws. It'll give them an opportunity to step up to the plate again and say, hey, you are totally correct in what we're saying here. You're totally wrong. And, this is, from my understanding, this is the first step in a process. And even if we're successful tonight, we recognize we may not be successful in the next step. So we would like the opportunity to go before the actual group of people that said, hey, let's make this regulation. And so that's what we're asking here tonight. And we don't believe, normally when you would, well, I won't use the word normally, but I also did something else here. I said, I'll find this little thing here, and I didn't make enough of these. And maybe these, I went on the internet, because obviously we're talking about one thing here, starting and stopping. And that's, I'm sure that, and I fully am cognizant of the fact and recognize smoking and vaping are not necessarily good for your health. And I'm not here to defend them on any of that stuff. But then I said, why don't I go on the internet and say, why do people start using tobacco? And there was a 6-bullet point thing here from, go figure, the American Cancer Society. It's peers who use tobacco, parents or siblings who use tobacco use in movies, TVs, video games, and on social media, tobacco products that are candy or fruit flavored, tobacco marketing that uses images to appeal to younger people, including messages that smoking makes you thin, price breaks on tobacco products. I also looked at the New York State laws about being an approved vendor for tobacco products. Many of these items, like discounting tobacco, is not allowed. You know, there are, New York State at the state level has imposed things and restrictions upon these operators. So when I look at this and I say, wow, why don't they list density of smoke locations? Not there. Then I said, why people quit using tobacco? Because obviously, and I've got this handout here for you, and it says, oh, why do people quit? Health benefits. And they go through a whole list here of health benefits. Financial benefits. Smoking is they say smoking is expensive. Social and emotional benefits. Family benefits. I made 4 copies of this. So, in it, none of them talk about, and again, I am not saying I did Google searches. I did it over and over and over again, thinking eventually one of these is going to say, there's 2 stores within 284 feet of each other, and that's why we've got rampant smoking in this community. None of that I found when I was searching the internet. So I'm happy to give this to you. I'm pulling out my little copies here. I should have guessed there would be more than the number I printed. Oh, and the other reason why people quit smoking, I listed the reference source on that, Google, AI, and which references the CDC and other various studies. So, this came from the internet, which makes it super simple for me because I was able to just simply cut and paste it. So here are 3, can I give these to him? Sure. Okay, great. Just so you can read them for yourself.
Just
right
hand
now.
it to Mr. Evans and
Oh, Mr. Evans. How you doing? Wonderful, thank you. So you can pass those out. And I am not saying for a second, lots of people make a lot of poor decisions, and
pass that down.
they can make those. And then I said,
And Brad sharing that. Here, you can.
And then I said, well, why don't I look about vaping? Vaping does not have nearly as many answers as, I thought I could do the same thing. It just didn't, it just came up with stupid stuff. And I don't even know why I'm saying that, but the best one I could find was from the American Cancer Society. And it says, social influences. The most common reason U.S. middle and high school students give for trying an e-cigarette, which I construe an e-cigarette, is vaping. Hopefully I don't have that wrong, but that's what it seemed like all the literature spoke about, is that a friend used them. Youth also report vaping because they are curious about e-cigarettes because family members used them. And then it talks about how do they get them? Through a friend. They bought the products themselves. Someone else buys them for them. Someone offers the product to them. And again, what makes this unique among all the other operators could be in Oliver Rondequoit. They will not allow people under 21 into the store. So, again, the fact that, parents might smoke, might vape in front of their kids, it has nothing to do, none of these have anything to do with the proximity of locations. So, if you want to, I'll give you a copy of this too. I would, you know, so that's, I've got 3 of these for you here. Well, guess what? You're only gonna get 2. I don't know where the other one is. I'm sure it's in my little pile there. And again, this is really weighing well, let's continue on. I think I've said enough about item A unless you feel like I need to go on there further.
What I'd like you to address for me is not in reference to A, B, C, D, and E, but the overall standard for an area variance, practical hardship. What is the practical hardship to this applicant other than the law that the town passed?
Could you repeat that question so it gives me a second to absorb it?
Sure, the standard for granting an area variance is practical hardship, that the benefit to the applicant will outweigh the burden to the health, safety, and general welfare of the community. Practical hardship. In this case,
Are you talking about item B underneath the
no, I'm
5?
talking about the overall standard. A, B, C, D, and E are parts of the overall standard of practical hardship. Other than the ordinance that the town board passed that says you can't have a shop where you want to put it, what is the practical hardship to the applicant that would justify us in saying, well, we're going to rule in favor of the applicant? What's the practical hardship?
That the net, let me just think about this for 1 second.
Take your time.
I appreciate you asking such hard questions.
You may not later, but
Well, I'm hoping they get harder. That was a joke. I shouldn't have. Anyways, I would say the practical hardship is that, first off, for whatever reason, smoking and vaping is legal in New York State. And I will also say that the net impact of granting this variance will, from what I see, really have no impact on the overall rate of smoking, cigarette use, tobacco use, and vaping. That I just couldn't find, and I'm familiar with that, 1,000 feet, 750 feet in my, various people. I'm familiar with what the law says there, or your zoning law says there, but I just don't think it really will impact anything. No different than somebody coming before you and saying, oh, a 4-foot fence when a 3-foot high fence is required. Really, it doesn't really impact anyone. This will not impact anyone, and I did not even know.
you're comparing apples and oranges. The fence regulation talks about a height. You're talking about, we want to put a fence where the town says there's no fences allowed.
The reason why you get a variance, by your rationale, you could never get a variance anywhere, because everyone that comes here tonight is saying, well, this is what the law says, this is what I want to do.
Well, that's where you're seriously mistaken, because the standard is practical hardship. Like the gentleman who wants to put the addition on the house on Belmead. He asked for a variance of 2 feet because the situation of where his house is on the lot, the 2 feet makes the idea practical.
We do have a practical hardship here that I would like to.
I'm waiting to hear it.
The parcel is so dang big that you know, this is an 1,800 square foot store on a big, probably one of the larger, I'm guessing it's one of the larger retail plots of land in town. I'm sure, like the Walmart, I'm sure is bigger, and a few others are bigger like that. But if you said, oh, let's create a mythical world where you could build an 1,800 square foot building, it would have a tiny little lot. The fact that you have like 350 feet, 500 feet till you get from, you know, his mythical little area to a property line, it's to his detriment. If he could find, if there was this lot of land for an 1,800 square foot store, which I know would be like less than a third of an acre, because I also do Wendy's restaurants, and I now know that a Wendy's restaurant, which is about 1,800 square feet, I've gotten them approved on, you know, third of an acre lots. So if this lot was consistent with the size of the store, which it is not, he would be like, guess what? We would be so close, we could wipe out almost all of these variance requests because we are that, it's sort of taken to us by being on a big piece of property.
Mr. Becker, what I think the board wants to know is why does this business have to be at 525 Titus? Given, you know, the law is what it is, and it says that this type of business has to be, you know, set back 1,000 feet from schools and childcare areas, so why do you all have to be here?
Well, first off, I would say that I'm thinking about how I want to say this because this is an extremely important statement on my part. So I need to think for a second here. This store looked at this location. I honestly don't know, you know, it just came up as a location for him to be at. And for whatever reason, he decided to be here. And my rationale for the variance is that even though it was written this way, you know, with 1,000 feet, 750 feet, whatever number you want to use, it doesn't impact it doesn't change anything that's going to be happening in the world. And I know that was not a great answer. Maybe I can say something else. I shouldn't have said that even. I just don't, it's not going to make a difference. You know, and that's ultimately no different than a house that's going to be 2 feet closer to a property line, or 6 hens versus 5 hens. And so many of the places they don't quite fit. And that's what I'm trying to say here, that the Joshua Park, anyone who is, you know, thinking that is what they were thinking, you know, this is why I'm asking for the variance. Anyone who is at Joshua Park and thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to walk around the plaza or I'm going to do this, it's crazy. And anyone who's at that church is thinking, well, that church is located such that, I think it's called like St. Anne Margaret's Church, I believe that. It's on the other side of Joshua Park, which is within the 1,000 feet of our property line. The thought of where, first off, you'd have to physically drive to that church, because that church is, I never even knew how to get there till the other day. It was like dead end this, dead end that, and you finally get there. That for them to get there and then drive, or whatever, the 1,000 feet to get there, just the zoning requirements here just don't fit this unique situation. And that's my basis for this.
What's the unique situation.
That every one of the ones that we're talking about here are, they're not straightforward, or they're so reasonably close. Like when you look at like the United Methodist Church down there, they don't have a school in there anymore. So they have a daycare center in there, that's correct. But again,
You talking about the United Church of Christ?
yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
No, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to be sure I was
No, I was incorrect.
got the right place.
No, I was incorrect about that.
Yeah,
That,
okay.
again, they've got a daycare center.
No, they have a community
I'm sorry,
nursery school.
Community nursery
Right.
school. Again,
And Quickly's right across, kitty corner across the street, already sells tobacco products.
and vaping
And-
products.
Yep, and so does one of the dollar stores, I understand.
Dollar Generals.
And then you've got the park, and you've got St. Margaret Mary's Church, and you've got the school building at
Right, the
45 Cooper, and whether students go in there or not, I don't know.
They
But
don't.
but it's characterized as a school because it's owned by the school
This is
district.
why we would like to go before the town board
Well-
and have them answer that question.
Here's what I'm gonna suggest to you. Maybe you should ask the town board to rescind the ordinance.
I'm not asking, that I would like, why we haven't applied to the town board yet is because I take advantage of people who work for the town of Arundecoit and ask them, what is the process to go through? And I was told, go to the ZBA, get their approval, and then,
Well, I think you were told to go to the ZBA and ask for their approval. Whether you get it or not is a whole nother question.
okay, well, I stand corrected. Okay, and I was told, why make application and go through that expense not knowing whether we'll be successful tonight or not? So based upon that recommendation, that's how we've proceeded forward. And again, what I'm asking for is when you look at these, I am saying that when you look at these items, each one at a time, I think we do meet the letter or the intent of the law for getting a variance. It's not my, when you,
Let's go down to, is the situation self-created?
well, something,
All right, because.
That's a good one.
Hold on, because you have an applicant who wants to open a store in a place that it's not allowed, and he hasn't been there. It's new. So tell me how that situation is not self-created.
something, I wondered that question my entire life. 'Cause
Okay,
I've done
so
these
let's hear the
variances
answer.
Before, and then I looked to my friend, a primer on area variances in New York. Go figure. They talk about this. And I'm happy to let you read this if you want to. They basically say that section is written there such that if tomorrow morning somebody, again, and this is not my project, decided to build a house, and they built the house within 1 foot of the property line when 10 feet is required, that is what they describe as self-created. That's how this goes through and talks about this. So I am,
How is that any different from?
because the way they are talking about this here is somebody does something illegal, and then they say, oh, I did something illegal, grant me forgiveness. We are not doing anything illegal and then coming here before the board tonight saying, oh, we didn't know we were not allowed to do this, so grant us forgiveness.
No, you're saying we know we're not allowed to do it,
But
but
this
we
is-
want you to let us do it anyway.
Do you want me to read to you what it says here? Because I always used to think
Look.
exactly what you said.
Yeah, your primer off the internet on variances, okay? I'm sure it's been very informative to you, okay? But I spent a semester listening to Robert Anderson, who wrote the book on zoning in New York and the United States. And he explained to us in great detail what a practical hardship is and what self-created means. Not off the internet. I have no idea who put that together, but it's not giving you the same information that I received from the guy who wrote the books.
I could read you the next 3 pages on this subject here.
No, you're not.
I know
Because
I'm not.
I'm not interested. You have not yet answered, other than telling me that you don't agree with what the town board concluded. You have not answered the question as to why there's a practical hardship that would justify us in granting an area variance to your applicant as it's presented to us now.
This is, when I read are you talking about item E?
On A through E, practical hardship, it doesn't matter which
Okay,
one you
when you
pick.
read item E, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Board of Appeals, but not shall necessarily preclude the granting of the variance.
Right, it doesn't necessarily
Right.
preclude it, but we have to think it's relevant that it, or irrelevant that it was self-created.
That
And
is why I am saying, I don't disagree that you have to
let me
consider.
make sure I understand this correctly. Right now, there's no lease that's been signed by the applicant for this property, right?
I honestly don't know if, I am 99% sure they have signed a lease, because they would not have had me go ahead and make construction drawings for the space and come here tonight and say, guess what, we want this project to go forward.
Well, I can't understand why they would have entered into a lease. I watched the recording of our meeting in, I believe it was April of 2022. Yeah, and we had an applicant come in front of us who had contacted the town and been told, yes, you could do that there. And then the town passed the ordinance, but because the applicant had so much trouble with the owners of the property doing things in a timely fashion, that lease wasn't signed until months after the ordinance was passed. And then the ordinance had a saving clause that if you got your permit from the state before a certain date, 30 days after I believe it was, after the ordinance was passed, you'd fall under the grace period and you'd be okay. But your applicant here, if he's signed a lease, it's 3 years plus after the ordinance was signed. Your employer, you're working for the plaza, knows that application was denied and knows or should know why it was denied and never should have entered into a lease without him having our approval first.
Okay, first off, the project you're talking about, I'm not familiar with. The present landlord, I don't think has owned the plaza that long. So they were, the person I deal
When
with.
the new landlord comes in, it doesn't change the law.
No, I'm not saying it
If they're
does.
familiar with it or not, it doesn't change the landscape.
100% agreement.
Okay, then get to how this is a unique hardship that presents a practical difficulty that should have us say, well, we don't care what the town board has said. We're going to let you do what you want.
Again, I am offering a major mitigating situation here.
I'm waiting to hear it,
Okay,
because so far I haven't heard anything major or mitigating.
okay, well, this is my major mitigating item here. Every other place that I go inside of that sells smoking and vaping type products, any age person can go in there that they want. So, and who are these smokers and vapors of the future world? The young. And this store, and I would want this as part of the approval here, that no one is allowed underneath in the store that's under 21 years of age. So it's different than Quickly's, where I went inside of Quickly's today. whole mishmash of ages of people inside of it when I was in there. When I went inside of Dollar General today, whole mishmash of ages of people inside of it. This store will only be 21 and older. That in itself makes it unique, and I think is a major step towards, reducing, I say, starting of smoking. Everything I can, or tobacco or vaping use, everything I read about it in trying to prepare tonight was that it's the young people that are the starters of this project, or this whatever process of smoking and vaping use. Effectively, we are talking about people that are 21 years of old that should already know making good decisions or bad decisions, and making decisions that they're willing to live with. And we are saying, no, we won't let those people, we won't let the young people inside the store.
All right, so that's your major mitigating factor, right?
And the other one is that this parcel is so stupid large, and that comes back and hurts us. That if we were, again, a third of an acre, which easily you could put this building on a third of an acre.
That would depend on where the third of the acre was.
Well, I am envisioning if you put them exactly where they are right now and sort of drew around it, this would be a third of an acre, and put 7 or 8 parking spaces out in front. The only, all of a sudden, all these parks and all this other stuff, they would fall out of play here, because we are being, the fact that this parcel, I think this parcel is 880 feet north-south, something, or maybe the building is 880 feet north-south. That is one wicked long building, and that is the other point here for you to consider. That
Is there any other point that you want us to consider? Because we've heard about those. Anything else?
Again, I could go through A through E. It appears as though you have no interest in that. That I don't I think that when you look at all of these, that, when we go to B.
Well, B is the alternatives that don't require a variance.
Well, there are none.
The simple answer to that is find another location for the business. Substantiality of the request, it's a substantial request. You're essentially asking us to ignore the distance limitations that the town board has put in effect, and then the D is the effect on the physical or environmental conditions if granted. Maybe you have something there.
I think we have a lot on there. And not every single one of these, the net answer is, will this, by granting these variances, is it going to impact vaping or smoking?
That's not the issue in front of us.
Well, because in the end, in the end it is.
Mr. Bracker, that is not the issue in front of us. The issue in front of us is this building, this store, located so many feet from a playground, so many feet from another retailer, so many feet from a school. That is the issue.
Right.
Not whether it's going, granting of this will, let me finish.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Not whether it will reduce or enhance vaping or smoking.
Okay.
Those may be considerations that are behind what the town board passed, but that's not what's in front of us.
To go through these one last time, when I look at the park and when I look at the school and church behind the park, which all fall within the 1,000-foot item there, I don't think that's really practical, because you would have thought that, they're within 1,000 feet, and when you look over to the back side of the building, which is about as ugly as imaginable, you would say, I'm going to go into the store now and go buy something. No, there's no opportunities for people to buy things on there. So all of those, everything on Joshua Park, that side, I don't think really applies.
All right, I think
it's-
we understand your points.
And
right.
the school, I think when they wrote schools, they were thinking about schools with students. I think when it comes to daycares and facilities like that, those kids are not allowed to wander out, whether it's 10 feet away or 10,000 feet away. I don't think any of that makes a difference. I don't think that it's very, Quickly's is a different type of operation that I started off doing malls when I was younger. And malls were based around the idea of people would go in there and they'd spontaneously buy things on their plans. And strip centers just operate differently. So I consider this business in Quickly's a very different business that, so I guess if there's something that I should add more, I'm happy to do it.
Does the employee of the owner of the store want to add anything to what you said? You've been standing, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry, sir.
Malik Ahmed.
Malik Ahmed.
His my language is not good. I speak a little English.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add to what Mr. Bracker said? Okay, then we'll open this up to public input. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Step right up.
Good evening, Hannah Lee. Do you want me to?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So
The only ones who are sworn are the applicants because we are granting or denying relief based on the information that they provide to us. Your input is public input to give us the sentiment of those who wish to express a view one way or the other.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you say Hannah or Anna?
Hannah.
Hannah, thank you.
Yep. So I'm the program director of the Smoking and Health Action Coalition. We are New York State's tobacco control program, and I manage that program for Monroe and Livingston County. It was back in 2021 that the board passed the policy for the retail density law. Again, that would prohibit retailers from within 1,000 feet of youth-centered locations, including schools, playgrounds, and daycares, and then also 750 feet from other retailers. The policy was one of the first in the county, and this sent a very clear message that here in Irondequoit, you guys value the health and well-being of your constituents. Policies like this work to reduce exposure to tobacco marketing and products, which the data tells us is beneficial in reducing the smoking rate of adults and our youth. In fact, we know that increased exposure to marketing and advertising of tobacco products has a negative impact on our youth, increasing their desire to smoke. Children are actually twice as impressionable to tobacco marketing as our adults. And as a tobacco control expert and advocate, I'm deeply concerned by the possibility of an exception to this law. These policies work, but they must be upheld fully to protect our communities. Smoking is still the #1 cause of death in the United States, with 492,000 Americans dying yearly. And because of the tobacco industry and their deadly products, this will continue. And just to clear up a couple of the misconceptions and misfacts that were spoken previously before I got up here. New York State passed T21 in May of 2020. This increased the legal age of tobacco purchases from 18 to 21. So while I can commend them for saying that they won't allow underage people into their store, it is law that they cannot sell to anybody under the age of 21. And we do know that a majority of retailers actually have been in violation of this and do continue to sell to minors. I'd also like to add that Monroe County has 620 retailers. 82% of those are within city zip codes, and while I know that Irondequoit is not part of the city of Rochester, we see the smoking rates in those same exact zip codes 28 to 36% for adults, while we see the rest of the county at 11.8%. So we do see a direct correlation between increased smoking rates where there's also increased retailers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, if there's any questions or resources, I can be reached at hannah.lee@lung.org, and I'm happy to chat further, provide some more education as needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition to this application?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Okay. My name is Lindsay Kaya. I do have two students as well. Are they able to approach at the same time or? Okay. Would you like to come up? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Can you spell your last name for me?
Yes, it's Kahya.
Thank you.
So I am the reality check coordinator, also with the Smoking and Health Action Coalition of Livingston and Monroe counties. Reality check is a youth-led movement against the manipulative marketing of big tobacco. I am in both Eastridge High School and West Irondequoit, and I am here to speak on behalf of the youth this evening. As we know, youth who are exposed to tobacco and tobacco marketing are more likely to start using tobacco. Vaping has been a pervasive issue in our schools. The vaping epidemic has taken away from student privacy as well as a safe space for learning. A violation to this policy is extremely concerning to me, as increased marketing near youth-centered locations may increase youth tobacco use. I have here with me Megan. Would you like to speak as well?
Yes. I would like to mention a comment that Mr. Brecker made. He stated, what is 1,000 feet? 1,000 feet is 0.18 miles. I live on 17 Ridgeport Circle. That is 0.8 miles from Town Hall. And it is a very quick walk from Town Hall to my house. And I believe that marketing a smoke shop near schools is very dangerous and makes kids more likely to smoke. And I'd also like to mention that anyone can be an addict. Childcare professionals, teachers, teachers' assistants, students, anyone under the legal age of 21 can become an addict. And I would also like to say an addict would happily walk 0.18 miles to a smoke shop, and the possibility of that addict being one of the people I just listed is terrible. And being an 18-year-old living in the area, I can confidently say that, once again, promoting smoking near a child who is underage is very dangerous. And I believe that not only being an 18-year-old, but also being a parent of a child that lives in the area, that this is not a good thing to have something that promotes smoking, especially to people who are underage. And I can honestly say the amount of children that enter liquor stores across the country is an unthinkable amount. And I'd like to know how do we know for a fact that people who are under the age of 21 won't enter a smoke shop? And I would like to know if would ever be a possibility to implement that into just smoke shops in general, making sure that that is a rule or something implemented to make sure that doesn't happen, because I honestly believe that would make a very big difference in this case. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak in opposition to this application?
Good evening. My name is Christina Bartusek. I am the project coordinator with Uplift Irondequoit.
And I'm Melissa Safford. I'm the program director of Uplift Irondequoit.
Thank you for having us and letting us speak tonight. If you are unfamiliar with Uplift Irondequoit, we are a community coalition that values the health and well-being of the youth in the Irondequoit community. And we work on this through substance use prevention efforts specifically. Our job is to educate the community on the risks and harms surrounding substance use, and also to empower the youth in our community by helping them to build the necessary skills they need to just say no and to prevent early onset of substance use. We know that vaping nicotine is a large problem in our community. More than 8% of our high school students have reported current vaping use, more specifically, vaping nicotine products. These reports and this data was gathered from anonymous student surveys that we utilize for our programs and interventions, such as the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that is given biannually by our school districts. We also know, too, that nicotine use, specifically by the method of vaping, starts as early as age 12. The belief that nicotine use is no big deal also plays a large role in the decision of a youth to initiate their initial use. Nearly 1 out of 5 youth in the middle and high school say that they do not believe that vaping nicotine is addictive. If we allow this appeal to be granted and for this specific retailer to operate and conduct business in this location, it will be feeding into the narrative as perceived by youth that nicotine use and vaping is normal and popular within their community, which we know is not true, and it's what we're trying to prevent.
Higher tobacco outlet density is known to impact those social norms by increasing exposure to tobacco advertising, which has already been mentioned a couple times today, so I won't harp on it. But we know that that affects not just patrons of the store, not just people inside the store, but those walking by, driving by, or otherwise in the vicinity of the retailer as well. Advertising is intentionally designed to be extremely eye-catching, whether it is just the sign outside the building or if it is the advertising in the windows, on the doors, neon signs, or other forms of advertising. This is a particular concern for us, as the office we work out of most days is located inside the Irondequoit United Church of Christ at 644 Titus Avenue. So we share a building with the Irondequoit Cooperative Nursery School, and I regularly walk to this plaza to eat lunch. I only have a 30-minute lunch break, so I get there and back, I eat my lunch. It's extremely close. I also commute past this plaza every morning and evening, and the number of bicycles and walkers, I haven't seen them in a few months because of the snow, but in the better weather, this area is extremely highly trafficked by youth, which I'm sure you are aware of. I will also say that the school building at 45 Cooper does have students. It is a tutoring center as well as other purposes, but we have met with students in that location on multiple occasions. Even tobacco retailers who follow the letter of the law and only sell to individuals over 21 increase the overall ease of access to tobacco and nicotine products in our community, as well as contributing to those social norms. Higher outlet density also makes it more difficult for youth or adults who are trying to quit nicotine to be successful, which poses not only a risk to their own health, but also to the people around them through secondhand smoke. We all know of communities where there are smoke shops on every corner, and I would hazard a guess that you, like myself, do not want the youth of our town to be growing up in that environment. When Irondequoit established these ordinances 3 years ago, it took a stance to protect the community and our youth. We applaud that, and we would hate to see the strength of those important protections diminished by allowing for exceptions to that rule. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Step right up.
Well, good evening, folks. Aaron Johnson, Superintendent, West Irondequoit Central School District.
Phil Ortolani, Director of Equity and Wellness for the district.
So I'm not sure there's a lot that we can add. There's been a lot of facts and figures that have been expressed. I just want to say, as a superintendent, I'm responsible for 1,600 students on our main campus at 260 Cooper Road. And as was quoted there at 45 Cooper, we do use that regularly to support our students who may be out tutored up for medical needs or other needs. We're a walking district, as you know, so we have a large population of students that walk to and from school, many of whom view that plaza as a hub. I do appreciate the work that you've done to promote our town as a place that buffers our students from some of these elements. And the point that was made that these vapes are available in certain locations in that area. You know, if there's consumers that wish to purchase those. And the point that was made around the saturation, and really that's what this protective factor is about here in the town, in this ordinance, is if we do that, I worry that we are sending the message to our students that as a town, you know, we support these things and we promote these things with our children, so.
Yeah, and I'll just, again, I'll add that we are seeing that our youth are struggling, particularly with vape addiction and use, and that it is an effort that is ongoing for us in our schools and helping to educate and prevent those things. So anything we can do to help in that effort for prevention is certainly something we want to support. Appreciate your consideration.
We appreciate the consideration you're giving it tonight.
I reviewed the tape from 3 years ago of our meeting, and I'm just curious, have you had another incident where the pipes have been plugged by the vapes?
We have.
You have?
We have, yes, and yeah. And we've instituted containers so the students can drop them off, but it's the number one infraction that comes to my desk as far as students that we see. So it is, and most of the students will say that they get it from an adult or, you know, a friend that can purchase those things from them or for them. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else here who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone who'd like to step right up?
Ryan Zigarelli, here again, 175 Schofield. I live right on the same street as the St. Margaret Mary Church. Kids all around the neighborhood cut through that parking lot, through Joshua Park to the back of the Wegmans Plaza. So you do see a lot of traffic through the backside, contrary to what Mr. Bracker is saying. But really, all of that is somewhat irrelevant. He just hasn't made a case for what hardship there was. So basically, they want to put a shop in a space that isn't allowed, and he could just not do that. You just don't sign the lease. Or if you signed the lease already without checking the codes, you know, that's unfortunate. But it doesn't seem like there's a hardship here that could have been avoided. So that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Is there anyone who'd like to talk to us about this application that is neither in favor or opposed? All right, Mr. Bracker, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yes.
Step right up.
In response, many of the statements or comments made were talking about youth. I guess I didn't do a great job saying that this store will prohibit anyone 21 years of age or anyone younger than 21 years of age from entering the store. And that's different than, you know, Quickly's or these other stores there. The fact that, so I would like you to take that in consideration, that is a major mitigating situation here over, I think, any other smoking or vaping retailer in town. Why people start smoking, and I realize they don't start smoking because there happens to be, you know, a smoke store or Quickly's or whoever within 58 feet of their house, and they wouldn't smoke if it was 1,018 feet away. And again, going back to the fact that we are being penalized here from compliance with the law because this is such a large lot. If this was, and if it was a lot appropriate with the size of the building, with the use, then I think we'd be in compliance with everything. We would not need to be here tonight. And That's why when you look at these, that should be taken into consideration that if we were, let's pretend tomorrow morning we could be located right next to the Wegmans, or we could be very at the other end, all the way at the DMV. That's like 600 feet apart. Exact same law would apply to that. And I am saying that's unrealistic when you think about this. You need to think about it as if it was a parcel size appropriate with the use. And what we would like the board to do tonight is to grant these variances. The town board would then have an opportunity to say, we are still not going to grant this, or we are going to grant this. Whatever it is, and we'll deal with that day. And I don't think the town code doesn't really deal again with the fact of this is a much larger. If we were the size of the Quickly's parcel, we wouldn't need to be here tonight. And that Quickly's store is twice the size of what this store will be here tonight. So again, we're being penalized because of that reason. And I guess that's all I have to offer tonight.
Thank you, sir. We'll close the hearing with respect to this matter and move on to the next item on the agenda.
Oh, I have a question for you. How long do you think it's going to be till you're going to vote on these tonight?
We'll probably have a decision made, I would think, by 9:30.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next case is an item for board action. It's determination of the Assistant Fire Marshal to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the interpretation of Town Code subsection 235-87D7 regarding a proposed home occupation on premises 51 Thomas Avenue in an R1 residential district.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just about done.
Good evening. My name is Francisco Urbina. This is my wife, Jessica Spears. We are the owners of 51 Thomas Avenue and Extranjero Roasting Coffee.
So you'd raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We do.
Okay.
All right. We are proud Irondequoit residents who have lived and worked in this community for more than 7 years. We have a unique project, but it's very small in scale, which is why we're asking for the home occupation permit. We have been working closely with the town, asking for permission, not forgiveness. We have fully disclosed our intentions and operations. Our attorney has advised us to do everything correctly, and that's how we have approached this process. Within our appeal, you will find supporting documentation, including letter of support from our neighbors, survey map, roster diagram photos, specifications, business space floor plan, correspondence with the town of Irondequoit, and correspondence with the roast manufacturer.
Our project is a small coffee roasting business. The roasting will occur in a business dedicated area in the basement of our residence, which will be used for roasting and packing the coffee. The product is USDA certified organic green coffee beans, which are sourced from a U.S. supplier. There are no additives, no chemicals are present, and the roasting process produces only natural byproducts. Coffee will be sold online and shipped via mail, ensuring there are no visits to the property, no signage, no exterior changes, and no increased traffic, no commercial traffic at all. The business complies with New York State's Article 20C food processing establishment licenses and has received already preliminary approval from the Department of Agriculture and Markets pending specified code requirements. The New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets will oversee licensing, inspections, health codes, product labeling, and safety enforcement.
The roasting equipment uses household electricity and poses no risk related to chemicals, corrosion, or flammable materials. It produces minimal noise, vibration, and exhaust. Any odor or heat dissipates quickly and meets local code standards. Trial runs have confirmed no visible smoke is detectable or odor is detectable beyond our premises. Safety measures include CO2 detectors, fire extinguishers, smoke alarms. The roaster is a UL certified and uses software to monitor and standardize the roasting process. The organic chaff byproduct is sustainably disposed of. We value our home and our neighbors tremendously, and we will not do anything to endanger the occupants of our home, our neighbors, our house. There will be no commercial traffic at the residence. There will be no employees. Our residence is our private home, and we intend to keep it that way. We are not asking for a retail space, and no sales will be conducted at home. The roaster is no larger than a flat screen TV and sits on the desk with room to spare as shown in the photos. As documented by the manufacturer, the device is fit for home use. We proactively ran our own tests to determine whether the roasting will affect our neighbors.
And other than our neighbors Ryan and Cheyenne Thomas, who are here today to support us, our closest property line is 80 feet, other than Ryan and Cheyenne Thomas. Our own testing showed that the smell is not detectable past 25 feet from the external vent. Even if the perfect conditions were to occur and our neighbors could detect the smell of fresh roasted coffee, it's not an unpleasant smell. It's less intrusive than a backyard fire, a wood chimney, or a backyard barbecue, all of which commonly occur in our neighborhood, of course. Roasting coffee is a less intensive use of our residents than a lot of other permitted home occupations, such as a lawyer or an accountant who sees clients within their home. We won't have anyone coming to the home because of this business.
We are simply asking for permission to operate the roaster in our home as we start our business. This is a very small operation just starting. It is very important to us that you know that we are honorable individuals who respect the privacy and good relationship with our neighbors. We do not intend to change that if at any point the coffee roasting business becomes an inconvenience to anyone, and we will be willing to relocate the business. But for now, we just want to start our small business. We sincerely appreciate your time this evening in hearing and reviewing this appeal. We would like to extend an invitation to any board member who would like to see the space, who would like to know more about the coffee roasting process. We can gladly show you that. You are welcome to our home at any time.
Thank you, sir. Before we open it up to public input,
Chairman, this isn't a public hearing. It's an interpretation matter.
Oh, okay. Do we hear from Ms. Bowl, or if I'm pronouncing her name right, the Assistant Fire Marshal who denied it?
Yes, if you'd like to provide your input.
I would. I'm curious as to which of the various elements of subsection 7 this operation runs afoul of.
Yep, so I referenced 235-87D7.
Yes.
So that's the use of the noxious, if I say that right, combustible, corrosive, flammable, explosive, radioactive, and other materials that would endanger the health and safety of the occupants and the surrounding residents as is prohibited. The use shall not produce offensive noise, odors, vibrations, smoke, fumes, heat, or dust detectable to normal sensory perception beyond the premises. I've worked with Jessica and Jose throughout the process. They have good intentions. Speaking with other staff, it was the determination that that's where this home occupation would fall. I know that they just want to get the ball rolling. I think it'll be in my opinion, it will be a business that thrives in the future. I just don't know that it meets town code as written.
Well, I'm curious, because as I read through all these materials, is there anything noxious about it?
It depends on, again, their closest neighbor may not be there the entire time. So if they move out in 2 years and somebody moves next door and they don't like the smell of coffee, it could be offensive.
Well, I understand it
it
might
wouldn't
be
be to me.
offensive. I don't see that as falling under noxious, though.
Okay.
And then I'm wondering, is there anything combustible?
So they have the packaging material that would be combustible.
What's that?
We can speak to that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Look,
Okay.
I'm interested in hearing what is it Bowl?
Ms. Bale.
Bale.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I can't speak exactly on what they have, but they're saying that they are going to be bagging the beans, so that would be combustible material. So that would, no different than a cardboard box. Depending
Right.
on how much combustible material they have, that could be, obviously what they were saying with the fire extinguisher, that's a benefit.
Anything corrosive?
Not that I'm aware of.
Anything flammable?
The roaster itself produces a flame.
Okay. Like the stove?
From what I have reviewed through the documentation that was provided, yes.
Okay. Radioactive?
No.
Any materials that would endanger the health and safety of the occupants and the surrounding residents,
Again, it just comes back to the roaster. It's a commercial grade roaster.
which has a flame like a stove and produces a smell of perhaps fresh ground coffee.
Correct?
There's no offensive noise?
No, because the vibration is not going to be heard outside of the house.
The only odor would be freshly brewed coffee, which somebody might find to be offensive, but others would relish.
It could be burnt coffee as well.
Burnt
depending on how-
coffee? Okay. Vibrations, there's none of those, no smoke,
No, because there is an exhaust.
no fumes,
Again, exhaust,
no heat,
only from the roaster itself.
and dust detectable to normal sensory perception beyond the premises, none of that. Okay. And if I understand from the materials that you provided to us in terms of the heat, you said that the machine, even when it's functioning, is cooled to the touch on the outside, the heat is self-contained inside.
That is correct.
There is no flame. It uses
Yeah.
hot air to circulate the beans. I'm blanking on the name of the heat.
So
but-
basically, the roaster, it functions with the air. That's
It's
the
like an air fryer.
Exactly. That is the principle. That's why I went with the what is it called, a fluid bed roaster, because it prevents the beans from being scorched.
Okay.
Contrary to having what is called a drum roaster. So that's why I went in that direction with the fluid bed roaster, because it just doesn't burn the beans. In my opinion, I will not do the other type of roast that produces a lot of smoke, which is dark roast, because, in my own experience, I have found that dark roast actually kills the flavor of coffee, and that's not what I intend. I like to stay in a medium roast, which is elevates the flavors, the aromas, and that mitigates all that smoke,
The roasts are also standardized and computerized, so there's no accidental overcooking. It's all done through the computer, and he monitors it on the computer screen in real time. So it's not like a stove where you can accidentally, just kind of cook it a little bit too long. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, I just wanted to reference the packing areas. So we will be packing it. The bags themselves are not like paper or anything highly flammable. And the way he has it set up, he has a desk with the roaster on it, which you can see in the photos. And there will be a separate packaging area, a counter that will be sort of adhered to the wall at counter level. And that's where the packing will occur. So it's not in the area of the roaster. The roaster will not be in contact with the packing materials.
Yeah, also, it's good to mention that during the roasting process, like after the beans are roasted, you have to leave them sit for 3 to 5 days, so the beans do not get packed right away, because that flavor comes throughout those 3 days, so not at any moment we'll be packing hot beans or anything similar, so.
Go ahead. Anyone have questions?
If I understand correctly, you said that is an electric heating element,
Yes,
which is contained within the unit,
yes,
and none of the beans ever come close to the heating element. You're just heating air and blowing it on the beans, correctly?
This is convection.
And the exhaust, is the exhaust cooled?
yes, it is. I have a thermometer actually attached to the exhaust that I actually constantly monitor, because before coming here, I wanted to be 100% certain that what I'm telling you is correct, so I have an additional thermometer which measures the temperature, and it doesn't exceed 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Doesn't exceed 70 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yes,
The exhaust.
That's room temperature.
yes.
So what I can hear is about the only thing potentially bad about this is the odor coming off of the exhaust. And to that I ask one simple question. Can you put a filter on that?
No, in that aspect, I did talk to the manufacturer about it, because, I wanted to avoid any inconvenience to anyone, and they say that can result in a fire hazard, so I wouldn't put the filter.
She wouldn't like that.
Yes. And so, like I say, like our closest neighbors are here, and we have discussed the project ever since the beginning with them, and every time I roast, I approach them and I ask them anything, and we have an open conversation. If it comes to the point where it's an inconvenience, they will let me know, and like I mentioned before, like if it becomes an inconvenience to anyone in the neighborhood, like we can gladly find a different location, but for now, right now, we just want to start and see where it takes us, Obviously, as the business, our hope is that it will grow, and if it grows exponentially, we will absolutely find a different location, but right now, we just want to start and go from there, see what happens.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Does that area have to be inspected by Monroe County Health Department?
The licensing, sir, is through New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. They've already done their preliminary inspection and come down and looked at the space, and they have told us that the space will work, and the final license will be after everything is done. New York State actually requires us to put a bathroom on the same level, so we went through the town of Arundecoit, got the bathroom permitted, and he's just finishing the drywall now. So once the bathroom on the basement level is completed, then we can have New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets come back and give us the final okay, but they have already approved this space.
Yeah, they
Does
will.
that answer your question, sir?
Yes, it does. And one more. I have two more, if
All
I
right.
may.
Sure.
The second one is that space vented? You said it's in the basement. Is it vented out from the basement?
Yes, we have windows, and like I say, the roaster itself is contained, so there is only a small amount of exhaust that comes when the beans fall into the tray, and that gets sucked immediately
Out the exhaust pipe.
at the exhaust
It's
pipe.
similar to a dryer exhaust.
No, I'm thinking fresh air for you guys.
Yeah,
Yes.
there are
Ventilation.
windows.
Yes, there are windows.
I want to say 6 windows in the basement.
Okay. Very good. My last one is, do you have carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide detectors
Yes, we will.
in that area?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
I got a couple questions too. I went through the manufacturer's book that you gave us, and I also went on YouTube and looked up the device. Now, there's a couple things that they brought up, that exhaust temperature could be 130 to 170 degrees. When you tested yours for 70 degrees, was that under 1 roast or 8 roasts that you can do in an hour? So that's going to change the temperature. And, you know, your exhaust, have you got it all taped? Because they said that it should be taped with a silver tape because of heat and smoke and all the way around. So, I mean, there's things, and they also said, who's going to maintain it? And when it could start a fire.
Yes.
They came right out and said, because if those vents get dirty, it could create a spark, you know, from what you have, and it could do a fire. So, I mean, how are you guys going to maintain it? Is the manufacturer have to come down? Are they training you to do it? And if that were to happen, do you have a way to get out of the basement quick enough?
Yes.
Just stairs, or do you have one of the fire exits to go out the wall?
We do have stairs. We do not have a fire exit.
The stairs go up directly to the rear entrance. It's like right there above our
But I
basement
mean,
stairs.
you know, when you're presenting it, you know, talking, but that stuff is right in this manual as well. And then the guy's explaining it all, and he said, you know, like I say, the exhaust could be anywhere from, he said 130 to 170 degrees.
Yes.
And again, that depends on how much you're roasting and how long you're doing it, I would assume. But they also said, you know, the type of ducking you used and everything else is a big thing, because they don't, I mean, they were showing stuff that they give to you to use, and then they recommend you don't use it, you know?
Yes.
So at the same time.
Absolutely.
But how much are you going to be cleaning it and all that stuff? Because that stuff can cake up in those vents, is what they were saying. And if there is a spark, it could ignite.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you on that. To answer the first question with the temperature, you know, like I did conducted like 6 batches during that period of time. I did conducted them in a period of time of 10 minutes each, you know, and allow the machine to cool down a little bit in between, you know. So that's how I maintain the temperature during the period of time where the roasting was happening. It can go up, absolutely, you know. And they have like recommendations of how to clean the pipes and everything. To answer your question, after each batch or after an hour, I take off the chaff and clean it up, you know. I go out to, you know, that's another thing I did take into consideration is the venting to the outside, you know. So after like 2 different days that I conducted the roast, you know, I took off the vent. Like you say, you know, there is a little bit of chaff accumulated, and I clean it out, you know, and that's what I intend to do, you know, because it's very important for us to maintain that safety, to ensure that there is no fire hazard. And so I will be conducting that, you know, after a day or 2 of roasting. And preliminary to the roasting too, like there is no chaff. The machine has a chaff where it accumulates, and then after each time I'm done, like I clean that up, you know. So that chaff doesn't accumulate and goes up through the vent, you know.
And, you know, the roasting temperature is pretty high, too. That's about 330 to 440 degrees, depending on your time and how you're cycling it all. So that's why my concern was, you know, is it going to be cleaned all the time? There could, you know, a spark could come up and something could happen. And if you're down there, yes, you got a set of stairs to get out of there, but if something happens, it's blocked, what are you going to do? That's a tough one. I mean, that's probably any place you're going to do it.
Yeah. Our basement complies with local codes. The egress window is not required, to my understanding, but we do have everything clear, and you're, again, welcome to come over. Everything is completely open. Francisco's, you know, cleaned out the area, so it would be free of any debris or anything that could get in the way of a quick escape. Regarding the temperature, I think one thing also that might be a little playing to the difference here in temperatures is the location of the thermometer. Francisco put the thermometer at the end of the vent where the vent enters the wall. And at that point, that's where it's 70 degrees. So you might be talking about the exhaust as it comes out of the machine. So yeah, my concern and the reason we measured it there was I wanted to make sure the external vent wasn't getting hot. And so my nieces and nephews or anyone that was playing outside wouldn't be exposed to anything hot. And it certainly is not hot or even warm. But that may be something that is coming into play as well. But it will be maintained per the manufacturer's directions. He's read the manual several times thoroughly. We use the organic chaff to compost in our garden. It's collected every time after every roast, so all good points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got just a couple of questions. How, I realize if you get approval of this, you're just starting out a business, but how often would you be roasting?
So the idea of the business is to do it online, do it through social media.
To sell online.
To sell online. So it will depend on that, I have conducted tests, and so far I only done it like twice a week, I intend, depend on the amount of orders or something like that, because like I explained before, the coffee takes 3 days after each roast, after each batch of roasting, for the flavors to develop. So for now, like I will just do it twice a week and roast, like 4 or 5 times, 6 times, depends on the volume.
And each cycle is 10 minutes?
Yeah, each cycle is 10 minutes, it can be shorter, and go from there, Like I mentioned in our statement before, it is very important for us, like I understand, like if this keeps going and going and going, the smell is gonna be lingering around, and that's not our intention, so I will try to minimize the operation of the machine, so.
Okay, understandable. The other question is, since you're doing it online through the internet or whatever, how are you going to ship it?
Through USPS service, US Postal Services.
You're going to take?
Bring it.
Yes, I'll pack it and bring it to the mail office.
Post
Yeah,
office,
post office,
okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Any other questions from the board? Is there anything you'd like to indicate, Ms. Bale, that in response to what they've said or the questions that the board asked?
No questions as far as that I have. I just wanted to let you know that they have been forthcoming. They have not, done any shady, anything behind our back. They have come to us. They pulled the permit for the bathroom, which we have done our inspections for. I don't think that them putting a bathroom in the basement, if this doesn't pass, I think, the bathroom is, useful for their house to begin with. So I don't, again, that's nothing, they didn't do anything behind the 8 ball.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say? You didn't have any questions? All right. Then I guess we close this, right?
Yep.
All right, so we will close this matter on the agenda. I believe that takes care of everything that's on our agenda. Is that correct?
Got some
Yes, sir.
minutes.
All right, then we will be in recess for till 5 after 9. Ryan Zigarelli. Okay. Kevin and Teresa O'Hare. Thomas Marciano. Mr. Bracker. And then 51 Thomas Avenue. Okay. So we will do 183 and 189 Belmead Road first. And then we will do 51 Thomas Avenue. And then we will come back to Seville Drive, Pert Avenue, and 525 Titus. So, with respect to the application for 183 and 189 Belmead Road, this is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion that we approve this application. I believe that it's an enhancement for the neighborhood. It's an improvement. The testimony is that there's other like situations in the area, And looking at the drone, it's going to be a great improvement for the area. So I recommend that we approve this application.
I'll second. Somehow I knew that was happening. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. 6 votes in favor. No opposed, no abstentions. 1 member of the board remains absent. This is the 7th of April. Next item pertains to the 51 Thomas Avenue. This is an appeal from the interpretation of the town code by the Assistant Fire Marshal. I would make a motion that we grant the appeal, and I'd base that on the following findings. That the occupation applied for does not use noxious, combustible, corrosive, flammable, explosive, radioactive, or other materials that would endanger the health and safety of the occupants and the surrounding residents to any extent greater than what normally exists in an ordinary household use, and that it does not produce offensive noise, odors, vibrations, smoke, fumes, heat, or dust detectable to the normal sensory perception beyond the premises to the extent that it would constitute a negative impact in the neighborhood.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. 1 member of the board continues to be absent. Next item is the application pertaining to 140 Seville Drive. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I'll make a motion, we approve, the motion is approved. As long as she's gonna follow all of the characters that we got for, no more than 6 hens, no roosters, submission to the the veterinary certificate, coop and run.
I think we dropped the veterinary certificate.
We did?
Right? Because
Yes, we did.
heard that really didn't benefit anyone.
Well, thanks for bringing me back up to speed. Cooped and
That's all right.
run to be at least 4 feet from the property lines, which this is, subject to, to bury fencing underneath, 2 foot underneath the ground. Town staff will conduct inspections of the premises on an annual basis without prior notice, subject to maintaining the coop clean and food storage to be inside, and subject to waste be properly disposed of.
And are you approving the harboring of 6? Up to 6?
Yeah, up to 6.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. 6 votes in favor. No opposed, no abstentions. 1 member of the board remains absent. The next item on the agenda pertains to the application for 307 Pert Avenue. This is also a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application? I'll make a motion that we deny the variance. Following findings of fact. The introduction of a box truck into this neighborhood works a significant change to the character of the neighborhood. When parked in the driveway, it is obstructive of views. When parked in the street, it's obstructive of views and traffic. The alternatives that do not require a variance are what the applicant has done for the last 30 days, which is park it elsewhere. It is a substantial request. It has a negative impact on the physical or environmental conditions if it were to be granted, and it is a self-created hardship. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that?
I second.
You second. Any discussion?
I have a question. Because what it says here is continue parking a commercial vehicle. It doesn't specify that box truck, which is what we're saying he can't do.
Well, the box truck is the one that's illegal. The van is not illegal.
Yes, I agree, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter?
No, it's the commercial vehicle, it's the box truck.
But he does have a commercial vehicle he's parking there.
But that commercial vehicle doesn't violate the code because it's a van. It's the size and the weight of the truck that runs afoul of the code.
Commercial vehicle, the truck length and the truck height do not meet current code.
Okay.
The van does.
Right. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion to deny the variance, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 6 votes in favor. No opposed, no abstentions. 1 member of the board remains absent. The next item on the agenda is the application pertaining to 525 Titus Avenue. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes, and I'm going to make a motion that we deny this variance as well, based on the following findings of fact. The town board has previously determined by enacting the statute that prohibited smoke shops within certain locations and distances of other things such as child center activities, other retailers, has already made a determination that an introduction of additional smoke shops and businesses of this nature in that area is a negative change in the character of the neighborhood, and we, I don't believe, have the authority to simply, as Mr. Bracker suggested, disagree with the town board and allow something that violates the code that they have passed. There is a very simple alternative that doesn't require a variance. It's similar to the one on Pert Avenue. He can locate his business more than 1,000 feet from schools, daycare centers, and more than 750 feet from other retailers. He is essentially asking for 8 area variances based on the 8 locations that he's too close to. That is a substantial request. The distance variations that he's asking for are substantially more than half of the distance in some cases. It is a tremendous ask. Granting the variance would really not have any effect on the physical or environmental conditions if granted. However, given all of the other factors, and this is clearly a situation that is self-created, if the applicant had checked with the town, the applicant would have known that we had denied an application 3 years ago at the same address, maybe a different section of it, and should have known that we were, if he'd familiarized himself with that application, he would have at least perhaps been in a position to explain to us why this application was different, but the only and the major mitigating factor cited by Mr. Bracker, that he wouldn't allow anyone under 21 into the store. If the town board had thought that that was an effective deterrent, then they would have put that into the ordinance just like they did anybody who had a license granted before a certain date was exempt from the statute. It's not in there, and I don't view that as being a major mitigating factor. Anyone wish to second that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Can I ask a basic question?
Absolutely.
I totally agree it's self-created. One of the things they said right up front was that he liked the location, so therefore they went for it. Didn't really do any research. And but I also wonder about something else too. If we were grant a variance of so substantial like this, that would establish a precedent which would be used by others to go ahead and try to do the same thing, I would think.
Yes.
So I think that's very important.
And the only other application that I'm familiar with in the time that I've been on the board where this came into play was when the 7-Eleven at Laurelton and Empire wanted to move across the street. And by moving across the street, it put them 10 feet closer to the school. And the application that they asked was for an establishment that already existed, was already selling the tobacco products, and was moving, and the only variance that they were asking us for was 10 feet. He's asking for hundreds of feet in this variance.
He is.
Yeah, and that's the only variance that I'm aware of that we've granted to anyone under this statute. So if somebody comes in with 12 feet or 15, maybe they could argue that that's a precedent, but it's not a precedent for this. And you're absolutely correct that, granting it here, we're going to hear in the future that, well, you granted it for him, now you should grant it for me, and by doing that, it totally negates what the town board determined. Any other discussion or questions?
We also denied the old Ridge Coin because they were going to do both.
Yes, we did. You're right, I had forgotten about that. So I think we're well within our precedent on that. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. One member of the board remains absent.
I'm sorry, you said 6 votes in favor of denying variance, just to be clear?
6 votes in favor of denying the variance.
All right.
Yeah, it does get a little confusing. All right, then along with the packets of material for the various applications that we had before us tonight, we also, I believe each of us received copies of the proposed minutes for the February 3rd meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those? Does anybody have any corrections or suggested revisions to the February 3rd draft of the minutes? Seeing none, I would move that we approve the minutes for the February 3rd meeting as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain. I wasn't here.
Yep, okay. 5 votes in favor, no opposed, 1 abstention, 1 member of the board remains absent. With respect to the March 3rd minutes, has everyone had an opportunity to review those? And does anyone have any suggested revisions, changes, alterations to those minutes? All right, hearing none, I will move that we approve the minutes for the March 3rd meeting.
Second.
All those any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Motion carries, 5 votes in favor, no opposed, 1 abstention, and 1 member of the board remains absent. Does anyone have any other business to come before tonight's meeting? Seeing and hearing none, I would move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. 1 member of the board continues to be absent.
Cecil hasn't been here at all?
He